Hello all you crazy people out there, my name is Michael, I like wizards and dragons and making games. Welcome back to Making Games in Game Maker. So today I'm going to finally get started on creating designs for all the foes in this game. And by creating designs, I mean I actually spent a bit of time last night modeling out designs for at least some of the foes that I'm going to be implementing in this video. But today I'm going to actually get them into the game. I figured that watching me try to create the models would be a long and boring process because I am not very good at it, and it took me a while for some of them to come up with designs that weren't terrible. So let's see. This is what we have now. We have 3D objects in the background, but we still have programmer art colored squares in the foreground, which is less than ideal. So I'm going to work on that today. So as I said, I created a bunch of faux designs, and these are the ones that I'm going to try and get through today. I'm hoping to get through all of these today. I will break this up into multiple videos if it ends up going for like an hour, but I'd rather not do that. I'd also like to create their attack patterns if possible. Ants being the boring things, aphids being basically what was on the screen in like the demo a minute ago. Gnats and whatever, and pillbugs doing other things. These should hopefully be the like less complex faux designs, and the ones that I have not yet modeled out will probably be a little bit more on the complicated side. So I like to use this little program that I made called Penguin. And this is just going to be a little thing that I like to use to convert 3D model files between different formats. These are the Ancient History Game Maker model files that I'm using, and I will be converting them just to vertex buffers because those can be loaded into the game very quickly. Let's see. I'm not entirely sure if I'm happy with the background design. All these guys have 2 frames of animation as they had in Bombardier. I'm not entirely sure what I think about the bagworms. If you've never seen those are the larval stages of these like moth creature things, and they like to hang out on coniferous evergreen trees and eat like the coniferous evergreen trees until there's nothing left, and they suck. And we had an infestation of them when I was probably 7 or 8, and I think we had to just like take the entire bush out and burn it or something. So I will have no regrets about making a game where I just stamped them into oblivion. With that in mind, grasshoppers and pillbugs, I don't know if they quite deserve that fate, but you know what, the creepy crawlies and pillbugs especially were a little bit on the easier side to model, so we're going to go with that. Scarab beetles. I thought these were just a different name for Japanese beetles, and I think I said that in an earlier video, but it turns out they're actually different. I'm pretty sure they're closely related, but these guys are from Egypt and not Japan, and they have this bright red like collar sheath thing and green wings.
Hey.
Whereas Japanese beetles tend to be more bronze in color. Let's see. What am I doing? I'm talking about bugs, not my favorite thing to do ever. I'm going to set my vertex format to include 3D position, 3D normal, and a color, no texture coordinate, and I'm just going to export all of these into my workspace folder. Save them as just a vertex buffer object, and let's see, that should have done a nice little conversion. Okay. The vertex buffer objects are quite a bit smaller than the Game Maker model files, so that is 150 kilobytes compared to 430. Okay, where was I? So I'm going to take each of these vertex buffer files, and I'm going to drop them in data files, meshes, foes, right here. And now I need to come up with a working way to load this into the game. In Bombardier, everything was like a struct, and all the faux classes and everything were their own structs, and from there it's a pretty simple task to just load in a set of vertex buffers to go with each of the faux classes or that kind of thing, and go from there. But now I don't currently actually have anything like that. I could like do this the lazy way, and for each entity faux ant or entity faux whatever that spawns in, we could load the vertex buffers on the fly right then and there, because they're only a couple of kilobytes each, and that probably shouldn't be too big of a hit on performance. But I'd rather not do that. So I think what I'll do instead is I'll create a cache of, if not like complete faux metadata or anything like that, I will create a cache of vertex buffer objects, and to do that, let's see. There's a function I wrote last time called load level meshes, and this is just going to iterate over every file in the in a folder and load it, I think. But I'm not actually going to. Excuse me. I'm not actually going to do something like that this time. I don't think. Let's say self dot faux meshes can be a struct, and for each of these, self dot. Actually, wait a minute. I think we can do these all like with the struct literal. So I could say ant is going to be and I'll make this neater later, but load vbuff load. What was it? I had some kind of model loading function. Oh, apparently I don't. Do I not? Really? I mean, okay. Whatever. We can do that now then. Load the vertex buffer with the file name and the format. I can make this text a little bigger. And this is just going to basically be a wrapper for these two lines of code here. So we can say buffer load the file name of our v buffer is going to be buffer create from vertex buffer. Buffer delete the source buffer and return vertex buffer. And we could also like vertex freeze, which I suppose is a good practice to do once in a while. Vbuff is going to be equal to buffer load, and the argument is going to be the folder plus the file name. The folder plus the file name, and we're also going to take the vertex format as the starting argument, as the vertex format argument. And we can do this a little bit more nicely and neatly than last time, and load vbuff meshes faux ant 0.vbuff, and that should at least run. That's the correct number of punctuation marks. Since each of these guys have basically 2 frames of animation, and theoretically they could have more if I was better at my job and if I felt like spending the time to do that. I'm thinking loading this into an array. That does need the second argument. Loading this into the array could I thought something about that looked funny. Loading this into an array could just allow us to create basically a set of like sprite indices that we can draw. I'm gonna run the game now. If it doesn't crash, I'll count that as a success. All right, let's just make sure the backgrounds are all behaving as they should. That's good. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to load the faux vertex buffers into a structure like this, but in the name of don't repeat yourself, I am going to write a little wrapper function for this as well. So while we have load level meshes, we could also say function load faux meshes like this. And it's going to, I think it's going to do something similar. Except instead of taking just a folder, we can call it, I guess we could call it file name, in keeping with tradition. And instead of doing a file find, we could say var output is going to equal an empty array, var index is going to be equal to 0, and then while file exists, and the file name that I'm going to pass in, if we were to say load faux meshes, the file name I'm going to pass in is going to be something like meshes / faux / ant, and then a wildcard character. And we'll replace the wildcard with a like the actual index. So while file exists, string place, the file name, the substring can be the wildcard character asterisk, and the new string can be string index. So while this file exists, we can load vbuff Yeah, load vbuff. GameMaker syntax highlighting is just really, really not doing great as of the last few updates. Load vbuff with the this file name as the argument, and then we can array push output vbuff like that, and then when we're done, we're just going to return the output. And we can do this a little bit more easily. What do you not like about this one? Expected 2 arguments, got 1. I still need to give you the vertex format, don't I? So since these vertex buffers are going to be numbered in the file name, that means that we don't have to go through the whole just load everything strategy that we did with the load meshes function. And since we're only referencing the vbuff variable once, we can also just do that in line. All right. So what other faux names are there? There's ant, there's aphid. So we have aphid that we're also going to load in. Bagworms. And these are going to be more or less in alphabetical order. And if I run the game now, we should load those into memory without complaint. We're going to do it. The game isn't running, which tells me we're in an infinite loop, and that is most likely because I'm never incrementing the index, and that's staying at 0, and we are just infinitely loading ant index 0 into the game. Alright, well, it didn't crash. I count that as a win. I don't see any error messages that might have popped up uninvited. I also count that as a win. I should probably, where is LMAG? I should probably start committing changes, shouldn't I? Oh, that's a lot of changes. Alright, let me break this into pieces. We can say added the faux models, or at least some of. We loaded the existing faux meshes. Okay, I think that's progress. How long have I been going for? About 15 minutes, I think. I hope I can cut that down, because a lot of that was just, like, me being awkward. Next, I'm going to start, and let's move these into another folder called, like, templates or something. These can be our faux templates, and let's actually start looking at... Oh, I have so many tabs related to Raspberry Pi shenanigans. Looking at what these are actually going to do. Ants are going to just do nothing. That's going to be easy. So this is like the base faux, isn't it? I call this ent faux ant or something like that. That's going to sound really funny. Yeah. I'll call everything that I put in like the templates category a template. Oh, you know what? I have an ent faux does nothing already. I should probably use that one because it's more similar to what I'm doing. Now we have something resembling organization. Okay. So ent faux ant is going to be our basic faux, and we are going to just we're going to have an empty shoot method, and we're not really going to do very much else. Let's see. So I'm going to want a reference to gamecontroller.fauxmeshes.ant, and that's going to be an array of vertex buffers that we're going to submit in place of drawing ourselves. So we can say self.frames or something along those lines is going to equal gamecontroller.fauxmeshes.ant. And when it comes time to draw ourselves, it doesn't look like, and this is getting to be a bit of a large inheritance tree. There's everything going up the chain of inheritance is just drawing self. I see there's no overridden events. So we can add ourselves a draw event. And this can be, for example, matrix set, matrix world, That's a new way of misspelling matrix. Matrix build. The x can be self.x, y can be self.y, z can be 0. Or maybe self.depth anyway. Would it be a waste of time to try and actually use depth in 3D in this game? Anyway, rotation can be 0, 0, 0. Scale can be 1, 1, 1. When we're done, matrix set, matrix world. Everyone's favorite. And then in the middle, vertex submit. The vertex buffer can be self.frames. Let's go with index 0 for now. PR, not a pointer, but a PR triangle list. And the texture can be a -1 because we are not using textures. And that should at least draw something. So if I were to go into, where's rooms? Rooms, levels, level 1. And if I were to replace, can I just like swap out the object type here? Can I just like swap in? I can. That's actually really nice because that means I don't have to reconfigure your like path enter and that kind of thing. Okay, so we should have at the very least 2 entity float ants that aren't going to do anything when we start. And they should look like ants. They actually do not. Okay, that is fabulous. Oh. I renamed that. If I had feather enabled, that would have been... That would have been automatically renamed everywhere in my code, but I do not have feather enabled. Feather is getting to the point where it's probably going to be featuring in these videos in probably a couple weeks, because in the June 2022 stable, it was pretty good. It's on a pretty solid foundation. It's actually in the stable release, but like not like disabled by default. And it works. Anyway, those are ants. They are not animating because I'm just drawing frame index 0. They are using their normals as the vertex color because I am using a vertex format that is not the same as the vertex format that the default vertex format is. But we can work on that. Okay. If you want to see what feather looks like, I can go into preferences, feather settings, and enable it for the time being. It probably won't be bad, but I'm expecting to see a bit of awkwardness, so I'm not going to be... It's actually only 5 errors, 9 warnings, 0 suggestions in here. But, doesn't like that audio set gain master thing. I'm expecting some awkwardness, so I'm going to have it off for now. In these videos until it's really really been nailed down. Okay, so let me also just swap the entity types for all of these guys. Are we all on like the same layer? I think that's all. All right, everyone else is on their own layer. I'm gonna have to go and do a little bit of a noodling around when it comes to drawing. If I want to have everything drawn with, for example, the correct vertex, the correct shader. Let's see. I could, in draw begin, just skip out on saying shader reset, GPU set Z, test enable, GPU set Z, right enable. I could bring this over to draw end. And everything that's just going to draw normally can draw in the regular draw event. So that's going to be, we'll probably see some draw fail due to invalid vertex layout when we try to draw, for example, the player sprite. But everything that's like in the game world is going to be drawn with the world shader, which will be the primitive 3D lighting and that kind of thing, and potentially other things that I decide to do with it. Let's see. You guys are being drawn behind everything. I don't think that is correct. Instead of saying this, let's just Alright, that didn't help. What about did I do like z equals depth equals 0? How did I I don't think I did anything with z in like in this project. Nope. All right. So I'll deal with the draw failed due to invalid vertex layout later. Okay, the player is not being drawn. The particles are also not being drawn. They are shooting. If I put my mouse cursor in front of an ant and click, they disappear eventually. All right. They're a little small. I could scale them up with matrix transforms. I could also just like double their size. Like this. So the normals are set as they should be. And that might be, I won't do that. Because I'm not set on what size I want them to be. So, if I were to say var scale, caps lock var scale equals 2. This will make the ants draw a little bit bigger. Was there even anything in the background to begin with? Yeah, that's a lot better. I kind of feel like they should have almost like a rim light or something, or at least like an outline around them. To make them stand out against the background a little bit, because the background and they're both dark. They kind of blend in a little bit. But for now, I think this is fine. So next to make them animate, let's see. I could just have them animate like alternating every other second just on a timer that's going to be global or something like that. Not even just a time source, but like current time or something. I could current time divided by 500, and that would make them go 1 cycle per second or so. But that needs to be mod 2. 1 frame every half of a second. But I'd like to have an actual like frame index for these guys in case like you inflict a stun on something or something. They should stop animating. Alright, that's really bad. One, I feel like they're upside down. I feel like they're being drawn upside down. Can I ever get through a Game Maker 3D game in which I try to acknowledge the existence of the room editor without like... Alright, that's better. Without having depth screw me over. Whatever. I wish there was a way to clear the depth buffer. Just like without doing anything else. Anyway, at least the legs aren't being drawn on top right now. That was a little odd.
Hey.
Yeah, but I would like a better... I would like to figure out how to make a better walking animation for that eventually. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying earlier, self.frame index, let's call it, can be 0. In the draw event, you can say self.frame index as our index that we'll be drawing. In the... Can I override the step event? We can just say self.frame index plus equals... I guess... I could make it a variable definition, but I don't really want that to be configurable from the room editor. So I could just say self.animation speed can be, let's say, 3 frames per second. So self.frame index plus equals self.animation speed times dt. I think I've done that a few times. I've typed GDT instead of DT because some of my other projects I call it GDT for like game delta time or something. As always, this is not real delta time. This is just adjusting for the current game speed, the target game speed. If your game lags, it's going to lag, and I'm not going to try and paper it over. But I can also say self.frame index mod equals 2. And that's going to confine us to the length of the array. I really should say array length of that, just in case I come up with one that's more frames of animation. All right. Alright, you guys floated in and you're doing the walk cycle 3 frames per second, a little faster than before, but that's fine. Alright, if I put my invisible guy here, we're gonna be doing that. Okay. Next, what I really should do eventually is I should draw some icons that will represent the different foe types in the asset browser and in the room editor, even if they're never going to be drawn in the actual game, just so that it's easier for me to know what I'm looking at. Anyway, let me also just create like a sphere, and that's going to be the player, or at least the top half of the sphere. If I were to just go and quickly make myself a sphere that can be like, say, 12 by 12 or so, and it can be 8 steps instead of 12. I don't really need that much precision. And again, just the top because we're only visible from the top. And if I were to save this, oh, I'm gonna have to find the folder I'm working out of, aren't I? Like that. And if I can, let's see, look up, where did I put penguin? Stuff I made. Penguin. And I can drag in this, and I can just convert this into a vertex buffer real quick. No texture, no materials, that was an accident, and I'm just going to export sphere.vbuff. By the way, all of these guys, only their tops are visible. They don't have anything from down below because they're only ever going to be visible from the top. It's probably not really ever going to affect performance in any way. Do I have backface culling turned on? Oh, the grasshoppers still have their bottom-facing faces, but yeah, most of them. The grasshopper, I'll remove those later, but everything else only has the top-facing faces visible because, unlike in Bombardier, the camera is going to do very little moving around. And there's really no point in trying to render anything down below. This is going to be sphere.vbuff. This is just going to be a test mesh. If I were to give player meshes a similar treatment, do I want to like open this up later to have different player types? The only thing this will cost if I decide not to do it is a little bit of organization. Player meshes. I would call it like default, except that's a reserved keyword. I guess I could call it default player. It's going to be load faux meshes, players, sphere. And we can give the player a similar treatment. So in ent player, we can say something similar to what we did with the ants here. Not that the player has more than one sphere frame of animation because they are literally just a sphere. All right, in the draw event, player has a draw event, but we're just going to, instead of saying draw self, going to do the draw entity. Should probably put this in a method of its own at some point. Okay, damage shield probably should also be modeled out later. But I'll worry about that when I worry about that. All right, so we are drawing an ant. Player meshes. Default player. Okay. The bullets are going to be a different matter. I'll need to find a way to draw them in a satisfying way. But, yeah, I'll probably draw that separately from everything else. I'll probably draw bullets and particle effects and that sort of thing separately from everything else. And that will be just using the default shader and just using, like, sprites and stuff. All right, so we've got ourselves a player, sort of, and we've got ourselves enemies, sort of. All right. we can also draw the player like this. And let's see, I've been recording for a half an hour. That feels like a long time considering I haven't really done that much. I do want to put this in its own function. Oh, you know what I might do? I could just like abuse inheritance for this. And put this in entity. Let's see. So I'll just make the player sphere as like the default. Or you know what I'll call this? I'll call this test player. And the default frame index can be 0. The default animation speed can be 0. Let's see. We'll call this test player again. And we'll just have the sphere be there for testing purposes. If I forget to assign a visible 3D object to something, it'll just show the test sphere. And all this can be the default draw event. All right, and if any like future boss wants to do something fancy, I can override that draw event, and it'll be fine. When it comes to the player, instead of writing all this, I'll just call event inherited here. The ant no longer needs a draw event. And oh, this should also go in the like the frame update thing should also go in the entity's base class. Okay. See, I also don't need the ants to inherit the step event. For I can also do that here. And we'll update the frame index at like the end of the step event. Okay. All right, you're playing an animation if you can call that an animation. Cool. Now what? So first, before I do anything else, this looks really weird when it's in all lowercase and faux ant in all lowercase. The player also. And I'll put animation in quotes because I can't call it that with a straight face otherwise. And we can start checking off things on Hack and Plan. So 3D objects for player and foes, that's done. Ant is also done. I didn't spend a lot of time actually like doing that, but like actually implementing that, and probably saying that was worth 5 points of work is probably a little bit of a generous measure. But next there's aphids, and aphids are going to shoot at you slowly. Bullets. I really want these to be visible, if for no other reason than I really want to be able to actually see what's going on. So for now, draw begin with bullet. Event perform EV draw 0. So we're just going to perform the basic draw event, and then we are going to hop, skip, and jump back over to our regular draw settings. And this should at least allow us to draw the bullets on the screen, right? I hope. And it does not. Why would that be? Oh, because they don't actually have draw events. Okay. In that case, it would just be a draw self. Alright, there we go. We now have bullets at least, and we can see what gameplay is happening. That's fine. Alright. Bullets are drawn beneath all of the other 3D objects. I might change bullets also to 3D objects because it would probably look a little on the weird side if everything else in the game is going to be vector art and the bullets are sprites. But I'll make that for future me to worry about. So next, I wanted to do aphids. I wanted to have these things shoot at you slowly. I really need to close some of these Chrome windows. But aphids are going to shoot at you slowly, which is basically what and foe template aim is going to do, I believe these are going to sort of home on you. I should probably give these like an accuracy. Oh, it has a bullet spread property. I was gonna say I should probably give them like an accuracy property so that we can judge their aim. But this is gonna be ent foe aphid. Okay, and let's see, I can close some of these windows now. Get some things off the screen. I'll leave the ant up for the time being. The create event, I'm going to also want to set all of these. I'll leave the frame index and animation speed as it was, but this is going to be, I did it again, aphid. When I try to spell the word matrix, which ends with the word, with like the IX, I always type it with like a different letter, and now when I try to type aphid, which ends with ID, I type IX. Alright, congratulations. So next, if I were to bring in... I closed the room, didn't I? But if I were to bring in the aphids into level 1, say, for example, wave 2, what I really should do is, like, write a little debug command that will jump me to a specific wave, or, like, auto-win the game, or auto-lose the game, or something like that. So we're going to have aphids, we're going to have ants. And why do I keep closing the room editor? I know I'm going to need to go back to it. Alright, whatever. Let's see. So I can kill you guys real quick. You guys aren't going to put up much of a fight. I'm just going to... Ooh, wow, okay. Probably should, like, edit the... Oh, good gravy. Yeah, you guys are shooting faster than I really want you to, because you guys aren't supposed to be that difficult either. We'll ramp up the difficulty later. If I haven't mentioned this already, which I'm pretty sure I have, I'm not good at bullet hell games. And I'm probably not going to make this the hardest bullet hell game because I need to be able to, like, defeat it myself in order to, like, post it on the internet in good faith. But shots per second, I can edit this value and I can make shots per second, like, a half of what it is right now. There is a bullet velocity value, too, isn't there? Bullet spread, shot velocity. Okay, so I can edit this and I can bring this down to, like... 160 or so. And that should mean that they don't put up much of a fight. I also would like ants to not drop any crazy power-ups or anything like that, so I should probably edit their drop tables as well. Yeah. So if I have just a couple of these guys on screen... Okay, I thought for a moment that you, like, went underneath one of the trees. You are. Okay, so the top of some of the taller trees are still, like, going in front of you guys. That's a problem.
Hey.
Alright, whatever. So those are aphids. They're like animation cycle. Actually didn't look half bad, by the way. It looks more like they're wiggling than walking, but you know what? If you've ever seen them, you know how, like, squishy and wimpy and, like, unimpressive looking they are. And that's honestly fine by me. We're gonna just put them out of their misery real quick. Alright. Actually, I'm not. I'm not gonna spend time playing my own game any more than I already have today. So I can go and knock aphids off here. And I've been recording for 40 minutes, so I really want to keep going. Like, I kind of do, but I also kind of... I don't want to have to edit another really long video. It's the way that making, like, game dev series always goes is, like, the first videos are shorter because the fundamental stuff that you need to set up isn't all that hard, but as you progress and tasks get more elaborate and nuanced, you spend more and more time per video on these things. But I really don't want to push the timer, push the recording clock that far, because it does just make that much more work for me to edit on top of everything else. So I think I'm going to end it off here. We are this much through the progress board. I didn't really knock out that many items or points today, because this one here took longer than I thought it was going to, but you know what, that's okay. I've got all the boring parts out of the way. I should be able to make quick work ahead of, after this. I will do grasshoppers next time. I will see how many of these I can get through. Um, hopefully I'll be able to at least get through, like, grasshoppers and be done with it, and after that I'll have to go and, probably spend a little bit more time with some of these other ones. That could be a fun one to implement. That wouldn't be hard, but it could be fun. Aggressive bullets home in on you. I'd have to create a new bullet class for that. And of course, the two bosses that I wrote down, I'm probably going to have to spend a lot more time on each. The Hornet Queen is kind of the final boss. It's like an amalgam of all these previous things. Anyway, I'm going to spell aphids correctly this time. If you want the code for this, look for the GitHub repository down in the video description. Look for the 0.22 release. That's going to be what we got done today. Otherwise, I try to post about 2 game dev videos a week. One Let's Make a Game like this, and one tutorial, usually pertaining to the weirder things you can do in Game Maker. So if any of that appeals to you, feel free to subscribe. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute towards the channel, links to that will be found in all the usual places. Otherwise, I hope you all enjoyed that, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Army Armbuster, DJ Gibbles, Edward Holt, Game Maker, Gunnar Clovis, KeyXE, Sindra Larson, Squarecrow, and Zenjamin for supporting these videos. If you want to support this channel yourself, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.